Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It is Thursday, the 11th of July, 2025. And do you see the lies? Do you hear the lies? Do you understand them? Yeah, guess what, media? You blew it. Once you lose their trust, you just don't get it back. And guess what? All right, welcome to the Thursday edition of the WTF Reports. I'm your host, Dave vonKleist, and I'm here, to raise your eyebrows and put information in front of you so you too will sit back and let your eyebrows fall into your hairline and say, WTF! I mean, what the heck is going on in this crazy world? And it seems like it's getting crazier. They say it's a clown world, and the more I see, the more I'm inclined to agree. Anyway, this broadcast, as usual, is brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. If you haven't checked it out, you're doing yourself a tremendous disservice. Go to our website, the WTF Reports, click on the advertisers page or sponsors page, and check out the Wave Watch. And you can do some searching on the web about it. There's a lot of very prominent individuals that are using this. I saw an interview with Dr. Kevin Artis. A lot of you guys know who he is. And I noticed he was wearing a Wave Watch. Yeah. I said, oh, okay, he's hip to it. So anyway, go to the website and check out the Wave Watch. You'll be glad you did. And the sale, the July 4th Independence Day sale, was extended to the 15th of the month. So you still have a couple of days left to take advantage of the $150 discount. And not only that, but the first 200 people who order will get a red, white, and blue patriotic wristband. So check out the Wave Watch. Go to TheWTFReports.com and check it out. Check it out. Anyway, okay, well, the ripple effect is moving across the world right now in regard to this this memo that was leaked over the weekend or released over the weekend. Basically saying, there's nothing to see here. Just move on. Epstein killed himself, and there is no client list. And it's all a big nothing burger. That's what it is. So let's just forget about it and move on. And of course, a lot of the MAGA people, Trump supporters, are taking a step back and saying, wait a second, wait a minute. This is not the way it's supposed to be. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and they were all banging the drum, pounding their fist on the table saying, we're going to release this information on day one. We're going to get this information out. You know the story. I'm not just repeating myself at this point. But I find the timing is really interesting, okay? This memo comes out and basically just pushes the whole thing under the rug. And then right after that, Bibi Netanyahu comes and shows up here. Isn't that, look at the timing on this. Now, again, I was talking about this yesterday. Is it possible that, all of these people who, for the past 4 years, have been just ignoring this situation under, of course, the Biden administration? And if you think about, we have seen lists of people who go or have gone to Epstein Island. And overwhelmingly, a lot of them are Hollywood, and they're rock stars, and they're people in very high political positions. And I would say, I would have to ask the question: are these people more or less leaning to the conservative Christian right, Republican side, or would they more be leaning towards the liberal left Democrat side? Okay. So I could understand under the Biden administration why everything went quiet, and they were just hoping that, again, the American people would live up to their reputation of having the attention span of a potato and let that whole issue just go away. But, of course, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino kept the thing alive, and that was one of the promises under the Trump administration that we're going to get this out. So you can imagine the tremendous disappointment many of the supporters of Donald Trump and his administration are feeling when all of a sudden this thing is like, how dare you even talk about this? Well, like I said, and now what's happened is, and I played the clip yesterday, Jake Tapper from CNN is joining the chorus of the liberals out there that are saying, release this information, release it. Maybe this was reverse psychology. I don't know. And then there's also the old Sun Tzu saying, you hold your friends close you hold your enemies closer. Is it possible that this is a 5D chess move? I don't know. I'm sort of vacillating one way or the other. I don't know. I mean, I would like to, and I'm sure you listeners out there would like to know what the heck is going on. But I guess we're just going to have to sit back and see how this plays out. Now, I'm not necessarily siding with those who say, trust the plan, trust the plan. I don't know if there even is a plan at this point. I do know that there are good guys in the military. I do know, and I believe this with every fiber of my being, is that there are white hats out there, because I was in a meeting in 1996. I was there. I know who these guys, well, I don't know who they are now. I mean, that was, almost 30 years ago. But I know that these guys are there, and they want to restore the original organic constitution and purge our government of all these monsters that have taken over. And so I do believe that. Now, how they're going to do it, I don't know. But again, we are dealing with a level of evil that is basically inconceivable for most people. I mean, we're talking about, for lack of a better word, a religion that is as big, if not bigger, than the big three. The big three being Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Well, I contend that there is a fourth religion, and that it is even bigger than any one of the others, and because it assimilates the others. Now, I'm talking, of course, about Luciferianism, Satanism. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, really? Oh, really? I remind you folks, the regular listeners know a bit about my history. And, during the late 90s and early 2000s, I was a pretty hot property there for a while. With the working with Joyce and the Gulf War Vets Association, and then with the 9/11 documentaries that I produced back in the 2000s. I was rubbing elbows with a lot of pretty important people, interesting people, and one of whom was Ted Gunderson. And you can do some research if you don't know who he is and what he was doing. Rest his soul. He and I spent hours and hours and hours talking about what was going on with this movement towards Satanism. And it's been going, he was, FBI bureau chief for Houston, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. He had 750 agents under him. I mean, this guy didn't fall off a turnip truck. And he and I, like I said, we spent many, many hours talking about this, and it's just horrible. These satanic cults have been popping up all over the country, and all over the world for that matter, for decades. And yes, they do human sacrifice. Yes, they sacrifice children. Yes, they torture the children. They do this. This is not, you don't have to believe it if you don't want to. I don't care. But I know it to be true. Anyway, so the point here is that, is there some other play being, is there a play being unfolded here by the Trump administration? Because in order to take these monsters down, it's not going to be easy. They have permeated everything. So, but a lot of the world now is waking up because, like I said, this whole thing with the Epstein files, which leads to a particular country in the Middle East. And we all know which country it is. I know Dan Bongino can't talk about it. I know that Kash Patel can't talk about it. I know that Pam Bondi can't talk about it. Is it possible that one of those three magic words has come into play? Bribery, coercion, blackmail. Yes, blackmail. Is that possible? Well, we all know what the whole honeypot deal is. But anyway, so what's happening now is that, look at the timing of this. This memo came out this past weekend. Trump made the statement at the press conference about, basically shoving the Epstein issue under the table. And the next day, Bibi Netanyahu shows up for a visit. And yes, Trump says, the greatest man in the world. I'm going to let him answer the question in regard to a two-state solution over there. And of course, Trump is holding the chair when Netanyahu goes to sit down. I mean, he's just really sucking up to Bibi Netanyahu. But again, is this a situation where he's holding his friends close and he's holding his enemies closer? I don't know. But the whole world now is looking at Israel, and they all know. Everybody knows. Everybody knows about the honeypot thing. Everybody knows about Robert Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell's father. Everybody knows that he was an Israeli Mossad agent and working with the CIA. Everybody knows this. This is not rocket science. And if people do a little bit more research, they'll find out that Robert Maxwell's attorney was Samuel Pissar, who he passed away, but he happened to be Anthony Blinken's father-in-law. Oh. Well, I'll tell you, there's all kinds of stuff going on now. Why are they so desperate to protect Israel? Well, again, the three magic words, the third being blackmail. The first one being bribery, also known as lobbying. Don't kid yourself. That's exactly what lobbying is. It's paying somebody off. Bribery, that's what it is. Don't kid yourself. But, they're making all kinds of crazy laws. I carried a story by Rick Sanchez, formerly of CNN, and when he decided he wanted to continue to practice journalism instead of propaganda, CNN basically cut him loose. And RT, which is the Russian equivalent of CNN, it's called Russia Today, RT, they offered him a slot on their platform. Oh, but that makes him a Russian agent. Oh, yeah, right. And that's where Larry King ended up before he passed away. And that's where Chris Hedges ended up. A Pulitzer Prize winning writer, formerly from the New York Times. But again, he wanted to practice journalism, and the Times says, we'll have none of that. You're fired. So RT gave him a platform. And they gave Jesse Ventura a platform. And they gave Ed Schultz, who I knew. I met him when I was with Joyce, and we were in Fargo, North Dakota. He spent an entire weekend trying to help the veterans from the first Gulf War. And we spent an entire weekend with Ed Schultz. He was a patriot to the bone. He ended up on MSNBC. And in 2003, when he was protesting against the United States bombing Iran, MSNBC paid off his contract. And guess what? RT says, come on over here. So anyway, I digress a bit. But anyway, the point is that Rick Sanchez was doing a story. I covered it yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? I forget. But anyway, it seems that 26 states now have rules that you cannot boycott Israeli products. And there's another 11 states which have this legislation on the table. They're going to make it illegal for you to boycott Israel. You can boycott the United States. You can criticize the United States, but you can't criticize Israel. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's a push right now to, let me see if I can get this clip. Where is it here? Okay, is it? Oh, it's right here. It's right in front of my face. You cannot criticize Israel right now. And if you do, you may not be able to use your visa or your passport. Listen to this.
The U.S. has announced a new policy. Anybody who criticizes Israel online will be automatically denied a visa and entry into the United States. Marco Rubio announced this policy that the U.S. will now be searching social media accounts for any signs of anti-Semitism and anti-Israel remarks. And if they find one thing on you that is anti-Israeli, you will be denied entry in the U.S. And this also goes for existing student visas, as students in the U.S. studying could be kicked out, all for criticizing a country. Bloomberg is now reporting that anybody who criticizes Israel in a comment or a post will be denied entry automatically. Your visa will be rejected at the embassy and they won't even let you apply. The official statement from Rubio was that anybody who, quote, dared to criticize Israel will not be granted a visa to enter the U.S. On the contrary, Israelis who criticize the U.S. and Christians are allowed into the U.S. visa-free, a free way of travel. But if you criticize their government, you're not allowed in the U.S., even if you're from a different country.
Isn't that something? So you can't criticize Israel. Well, you know what? It's not just here in the United States. Up north in the border, Staff Sergeant Camille Habel, she's with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, she made the following statement. Listen to this.
What they're saying on a subject, like becoming more extremist, and if someone was very believed in equal gender rights, but all of a sudden are leaning towards traditional values, and that might be a sign that they're becoming more extremist.
Oh, yeah. So if you have traditional values, they're going to say that you're an extremist. Well, I know it doesn't necessarily relate to the issue that we're discussing here about criticizing Israel, but I mean, if you've got traditional values, you're probably against genocide. I mean, let's face it, even Bernie Sanders is against the genocide that's going on. Here's Bernie Sanders.
Netanyahu is a war criminal. He has a massive amount of innocent blood on his hands. Civilized people do not starve children to death. With Israel having cut off all aid, what we are seeing now is a slow, brutal process of mass starvation and death. History will never forget that we allowed this to happen, and for us here in the United States, that we in fact enabled this ongoing atrocity. Do we really want to spend billions of taxpayer dollars starving children in Gaza? A real vigorous debate. I want to hear why that is a good use. We have people sleeping out on the streets of America 2 blocks from the nation's capital. You tell me why spending billions of dollars to support Netanyahu's war and starving children is a good idea. I'd love to hear it.
I'd love to hear it too. I'd love to hear it. And you know what? I'm going to take a break from this whole thing. What really upsets me is that we love to sing along with Lee Greenwood. I'm proud to be an American. You know the song. But what is it? What is it to be an American? What is it to be, a patriotic, God-fearing, mom, dad, and apple pie type of an American? What does that mean? It means you pay attention to your community. It means you pay attention to your country. And you pay attention to what's going on in the world because, hey, look, the United States is part of the world. But nobody wants to pay attention. I mean, they're more wrapped up with, of course, the NBA Finals just wrapped up, and now the baseball season is rolling on, and yeah, they love to see about what the newest movie is at the theater, or what's on Netflix, or did you see the latest episode of Fill in the Blank? They talk about all that kind of stuff, but the stuff that is really important, nobody wants to talk about it. In fact, we've been trained not to talk about it. How many bars or taverns or restaurants have you gone to, and they basically say, hey, look, polite conversation should not involve religion or politics. So you can't talk about religion and politics. Let me ask you, what are the most important topics to be discussing if we're going to advance as a country and as a species? You have to talk about these things, but we've been trained not to. Not only that, but those of us who are paying attention and who are discussing these issues are condemned, ridiculed, blackballed, they're looked down upon. Oh, what? Yeah, I know that guy Dave. He's a conspiracy theorist. Wait a second. We should all be conspiracy theorists. What's that saying? Absolute power corrupts. No, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's where we're at. And this issue about, this thing, what's going on in Israel and Palestine, that's tied directly to this Epstein issue. Don't think it doesn't. As a matter of fact, Ian Carroll, he put out, he's feeling it too. If you don't know, he's a deep researcher, and he's right up there with Whitney Webb. Oh, and by the way, I tell you what, let me switch gears here. I'm going to let you hear what Whitney Webb was telling Glen Beck on the Blaze. And let me see if I can cue this one up here. Whitney Webb, again, let me sing her praises. She has a 2-volume book out there, One Nation Under Blackmail. And I got to tell you, Whitney Webb is a monstrous researcher. And I was referring to her first volume yesterday. The first chapter is 36 pages long, and it has 4 pages of references. Now, usually you find the footnotes at the end of the book, but there's so many references and footnotes, she had to do it at the end of each chapter. This is marvelous research. You want to know what's going on with the Epstein issue? Get the book, or the books, the 2 volumes. One Nation Under Blackmail. Anyway, here's Whitney Webb talking to Glen Beck on this particular subject. Here it is.
We have to start with Jeffrey Epstein.
I think it's sort of like a meta scandal. You're looking at someone who really had, I guess, for lack of a better metaphor, had his hands in a lot of pies. He was sort of at the center of a lot of scandals, but not necessarily at the top, right? I think he was more middle management in a sense.
Was he a spy?
I think he definitely had intelligence connections. The earliest hints we heard of that was having a Secretary of Labor, Alex Acosta, under Trump, say that one of the reasons he was pressured into giving Epstein a sweetheart deal during his first arrest in Florida was because he had been told by unspecified actors that Epstein belonged to intelligence. What exactly does that mean? Was he an asset? Was he on the payroll? Which intelligence agency? Multiple intelligence agencies? Right. When you have his close association with someone like Ghislaine Maxwell in the mix, and her father had affiliations with numerous intelligence agencies, it really is an open question. Robert Maxwell was very interested in having his family be like the Kennedy family, a political power dynasty, and that's part of why he started moving into New York City a year or two before he ended up dying. And Ghislaine Maxwell was sent to New York sort of to be his emissary into the U.S., and he wanted her actually to marry a Kennedy. He sort of saw that as, would advance his power and also, that of his children. A lot of times narcissistic parents see their children as extensions of themselves. Yeah. And so, he's looking at how to build an empire and using his children to that effect. And you sort of see that with the psychology of Ghislaine Maxwell. She was basically managed by her father from a very early age. He tried to manage her romantic life. He tried to manage what job she would have, and she was very dependent on him. So when he is dead in 1991, it makes sense that she would attach herself to someone with a lot of the similar characteristics, right?
So Dad didn't know about Jeffrey Epstein, wasn't alive at that point?
Well, the allegation have been made by people that worked with Robert Maxwell. Jeffrey Epstein was seen in his offices frequently in the United Kingdom. And during that period of time, it was known that Epstein was active in the United Kingdom. He was allegedly being mentored by a British arms dealer named Douglas Leese with British intelligence connections.
Why is it nobody else is reporting on this?
I don't really know exactly why that would be, but the silence is very eerie about major aspects of the Epstein case. And also the history of sexual blackmail and how it's been sort of an undercurrent in some past political scandals in American history, and how in these sorts of networks in which Epstein was inhabiting, that type of practice and exploitation even of minors for those purposes was actually disturbingly common. So Epstein starts to look less and less of he's not an anomaly.
No, he's not an anomaly. I would tend to agree with most of what she's saying. I would also contend that, they say that Ghislaine Maxwell was his sidekick or his, he was her handler. I think it's the other way around. I think that Robert Maxwell had groomed his daughter to basically take over this honeypot operation. And that, being the narcissist that he was and the egotist that he was, Jeffrey Epstein was a perfect pawn to be able to play that part. So I don't know. I could be wrong about that. I have an awful lot of respect for all these researchers like Ian Carroll and Whitney Webb. And, there's another one that slips in my mind right now. A woman that's totally deaf, and she's totally deaf since birth. And she just sits at the computer and does some serious research. But anyway, getting back to this issue about, is this a 5D chess move? I'm just curious to find out if anybody else is thinking along the same lines that I am. Is it possible that Trump and his administration is doing this on purpose to draw attention to this issue and make it come to the surface again? I don't know. If you want to give me a call, you're welcome to do so. I'd like to know what you think. 215-867-8255. Again, that's 215-867-8255. 8255. Give me a ringy-dingy.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Again, Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And if you do go to their website, GetMoreTank.com, use the promo code REDPILL101 and get 10% off. And by the way, as you regular listeners know, I'm here with the audio receipts. You know, I'm here, WTF, with the facts. And I was going through my audio files, and I came across a call that came in, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, 5 months ago or something. Somebody called in, and they've been using Get More Tank, and here's what they had to say. All right, let's go to Chicago. Say hi to Jerry. Jerry, thank you for holding. You're on the air. What do you got?
Hey, this is what I got for you. I started using that GetMoreTank.com back around May in 2 different vehicles. And I'll tell you what, my fuel economy went up in one of them, Toyota RAV4 2019, and went up about 4.6 miles per gallon. I keep track of it.
Wow, good for you.
And 2019 Ford Transit with a 5-cylinder inline diesel engine, I went from 15.8 average to 17.2. And I'm also putting it in my chainsaw. I haven't noticed the difference with the chainsaw. I can't figure fuel economy on that. But, hey, that's all I wanted to say to you. Have a good show.
Hey, Jerry, thank you so much for the endorsement. It's a good product. It really is. And not only that, I'm sure that everything's running better as well. I noticed that in my my Toyota Highlander. When I hit the gas, I almost feel G-forces, you know. Anyway, yeah, so that was a call I got last fall, I guess, last summer maybe. But, yeah, and it works just as well in diesel engines as well. So you will get about 15 to 20% better mileage once your engine is conditioned to this, depending upon the make, model, and year of your vehicle. So, again, go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, click on the sponsors page, and get more tank. Okay, back onto the subject here. A lot of people now are extremely PO'd at Israel, including a lot of the Orthodox Jews, and I believe these two guys were in England, and they were asked how they feel. These are both Orthodox Jews. Here we go.
We have to start with Jeffrey Epstein.
I think it's sort of like a meta scandal. You're looking.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay, no, here, click this. Now here we go.
The U.S. has announced a new policy. Anybody who criticizes...
No, that's not it either. Here it is. I don't know, my mouse is a little crazy. Here it is. This is it.
So what brings you here today to support Palestinian rights? We as Jews are embarrassed what's happening there in the state of Israel, in the Jewish name. And what's your message to the people of Palestine? They shouldn't give up the struggle. They should continue to fight and not give up the struggle against the state of Israel, because by the end, Palestine will be free, because this is truth. Will succeed by the end. What's your message to the people of Palestine?
They should know we feel very shame what's going on there, especially they're doing everything in our name, in the name of Jews, in the name of the Torah, in the name of God. It's so shameful. We are with you. You have to know. The Zionists are strong. We are weak. But God is on our side. At the end of the day, the Palestinian flag will be on all Palestine, from the river to the sea.
So there are a lot of Jews who condemn Israel and Bibi Netanyahu for what they're doing. And well, they should. Absolutely. So anyway, I'm going to move right on through these audio clips here. Ian Carroll, he's feeling a bit, shall we say, unnerved by the events that have transpired over the past couple days. And I was going to play this first, but I wanted to have you hear from Whitney Webb before that, because Ian Carroll, of course, is referring to Whitney Webb. Anyway, here's what Ian Carroll had to say.
It's no coincidence that we have the world's largest blackmail ring being run by Israel, and we are passing speech laws to stop people from criticizing the government of Israel.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. Now, there's a reason he just said that, and you've heard the reasons in the previous audio clips I just played. So it is blackmail. And yes, they are intimidating people by, threatening them with this, that, or the other if you dare to criticize Israel. And was it Cynthia McKinney? As a matter of fact, it was 20 years ago when I was doing the Power Hour. I interviewed Cynthia McKinney, and she explained that members of Congress have to sign a Pledge of Allegiance to Israel. Yeah, that's the way it goes. And, let's continue on with Ian Carroll. Oh, all right, start it over here. Here we go.
It's no coincidence that we have the world's largest blackmail ring being run by Israel, and we are passing speech laws to stop people from criticizing the government of Israel, not our own. We have a massive unregistered lobby in our government working on behalf of Israel. We have dual citizens with Israel peppered all throughout our government. We give more money and military aid to Israel than to any other nation. Even when Israel embarrasses us on the world stage and goes against our president's apparent orders in war times, or peace times, just bombing people, our politicians and president go along with the cuckery, all competing for who can get Bibi's further down the back of their throats. It is no coincidence that for decades now, criticism of Israel has been a career-ending sin for anyone in the media or the government or finance or really any position of power at all. And of course, I'm anti-Semitic for looking at the evidence that is clear as day. Just ignore the facts and evidence that it is all laid out before you. Ignore the genocide that our tax dollars are funding. Ignore the endless streams of videos of kids buried and burned and starved to death in Gaza. Ignore that they are shooting them with sniper rifles while they're pretending to give them food. Ignore Israel's secret nuclear program. Anyone who talks about any of those things hates Jews, obviously. It should go without saying that we don't condemn the giant sex trafficking ring because it was run by Jews. We condemn it because it's a child sex trafficking ring. Maybe just don't run child sex trafficking rings. We don't speak out against Israel because they are a Jewish state. We speak out about Israel because it's a genocidal ethno-nationalist project that has become the spitting image of the, regime that it theoretically is a reaction to. When you learn about World War II as a kid, one of the enduring questions is how did they get regular Germans to go along with committing such atrocities against prisoners in the labor and concentration camps? Well, look around you. How are they getting people to go along with genocide today? How are they getting people to go on the internet and pretend like we don't care that our nation is run by pedophiles and that apparently that runs so high up that our own president, our own Department of Justice, our own elected officials, the MAGA coalition, America First, is now telling you, why would you even care?
Why? Maybe it's because of bribery, coercion, blackmail. Yep.
Would it even matter if Jeffrey Epstein had our whole government blackmailed? Why would it even matter if Israel and the CIA and all these dudes were trafficking children? American children, no less. Little girls off the streets in Palm Beach, Florida. As well as little girls from all around the world. Not to mention, a lot of them were into little boys. That's no big deal, apparently. It's not America First to even talk about it. Just shut up and vote for Trump. Yeah. I didn't really have an ending plan for this. Because it kind of sucks.
Yeah, it does.
So, I don't know. Maybe Trump's playing 574D chess. And if you want to know all about the 575th dimension of his chess moves, you can just log on to Twitter and trust that plan because it is still going strong on there. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But it'd be really nice if he could take Bibi's dick out of his mouth for long enough to acknowledge a few of the promises that he made on his way into office. Maybe just one of them. Maybe like any of them. Because unless we get some of that, it pretty much just looks like we're all paying taxes to pedophiles.
Yep, that's what it looks like. And I understand his disheartened feeling. You know why a lot of the patriots out there feel like the wind has been taken out of their sails. And, and I can't help but think that every single day, how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children are being abused right now as we speak, as you're listening to this broadcast, How many children are being sexually abused, tortured, killed? I mean, this is going on right now as we speak. But most Americans are more concerned with what's on TV. This is not what it's like to be an American. And, there are some folks out there that are saying, this whole thing about the pedophilia and the Jeffrey Epstein and the tapes and all that, that's not that important. It's more important to keep track of the business that people who are pulling the strings behind the scenes, in banking and industry, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I would tend to disagree with that because, this whole thing, if they did release the files, if they did release the videotapes, release the videotapes so you could see these people from Hollywood. You could see these rock and roll stars. You could see these politicians. You could see these CEOs and presidents of huge multinational, companies. You could see who they are. That would make that would collapse. Can you imagine? The entire Hollywood industry would collapse. The music industry would collapse. Pharmaceutical companies would collapse. Big agri, big oil. They would all of a sudden just go kaboom. So maybe that's what has to happen. But anyway, I'm just curious, is Trump playing 5D chess? Is he doing this strategically, methodically, and diabolically to take down the deep state? I don't know. And I got to tell you, there are times when I have to say, well, look, trust the plan, trust the plan. Yeah, if there is one, I don't know. But, I could understand why people are really, feeling like they're standing up in a hammock with roller skates on. But meanwhile, there are so many people out there. As a matter of fact, China just released a statement here about how the United States is, I hate to put it this way, but Israel's bitch. That's what a lot of people are saying. Here's a statement from the Chinese. Here it is.
Breaking news. China has sent a clear message to the U.S. that they are being controlled by Israel. A Chinese minister has come out publicly today and condemned the United States for their support of Israel's actions in Gaza. And he even suggested that there may be Israeli blackmailing U.S. politicians in order to force the unwavering support. China restated its support for Palestine and called for a peaceful solution and said that the U.S. actions are barbaric and that Israel is not a legitimate state. Not only China, but North Korea and Russia also gave similar stances. Kim Jong-un came out and said that the U.S. is a puppet of Israel, and the Russia strongly condemned the United States' support of Israel and their strikes on Iran. Moreover, North Korea and China also said that the U.S. is doing the dirty work for the wrong people in the world. This is very strong words from China, Russia, and North Korea. Everyone knows that the world is at war because of this one country. Now the world is waiting for U.S. and Israel's response, and we will keep you updated. Stay ahead. Stay informed.
So, the whole world is starting to line up against the United States and Israel now. Russia, China, these are the superpowers here. So do you think maybe Americans would find it important enough to start paying attention? When do you think Americans will start to realize that their tax dollars are going over to pay for the people in Israel? They get free education, they get free health care, they get all kinds of bennies. And not only that, we pay for their military. We send them the bombs, the planes, the bullets. We send them all that stuff to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. Oh, well, what's on TV tonight? And you're wondering why we're having all these problems here in this country, why we have so many homeless veterans and just homeless people in general. And oh, by the way, have you noticed how many floods have been going on around the country? Have you noticed that? That's really interesting. Well, there's a method called softening the target. Okay, is the United States the target? Are we being softened right now?
Oh, Dave, what are you inferring, Dave? That the floods and all the rain and everything was some sort of a conspiracy?
It's not outside the realm of possibilities. We know that they've been controlling weather for decades and decades and decades. And if they had a control over the upper atmosphere, do you think that they'd tell you? Seriously. I don't mean to change subject here, but there's so much going on in this country, so much, loss of life and properties. And it just so happens that where they have these horrible tragedies, it just so happens that they have plans down the road to build a smart city or to mine. Yeah, get that lithium or get the quartz or whatever. Isn't it funny? Yeah, that's what happened up in western North Carolina. Remember the big Hurricane Helene just wiped that whole area out, and it just so happens that there's huge lithium deposits in the area. Yeah. Oh, and there's another fire going on in Hawaii right now. Remember, that was in Maui, 2 years ago? And now it's, I forget where it is, but there's another one of the Hawaiian Islands is on fire. Mm-hmm. So is this all being done on purpose to break the American people and to destroy our economies? You think about, they were saying that flood that happened in Texas on July 4th, they said that there's enough rain that came down that was equivalent to the water that falls over Niagara Falls for 2 days. Now, wait a second. How does that much water get up in the atmosphere? Okay, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the CEO of a cloud seeding company, and he seeded the clouds down there in Texas 2 days before the torrential rains. And then there's also the issue about the dams. Okay, yeah, the dams, did they get opened up? Did somebody open the dams and then close them? There's a lot of people looking at that particular issue. So is this being done deliberately to soften the target? Interesting concept. So anyway, if you got feelings on this or any of the other topics we're talking about on today's show, now's the time to call 215-867-8255. Again, 215-867-8255. You give me a call, I'll put you right on the air. And I would like to know, do you think that Trump is playing 5D chess? Did he do this deliberately to draw attention to the Epstein issue again? I think it's an interesting concept because a lot of people are talking about that now online. So, as a matter of fact, Francesca Albanese had a statement about how disgusted she is about what's going on with this genocide. There's no other word for it, folks. The Israelis can say, we have to defend ourselves. Have you seen the videos and the photographs of what's left of Gaza? Everything is destroyed. Everything. The whole area is completely leveled. Oh, because Hamas is hiding in the tunnels. Yeah, right. Where do you suppose Bibi and his boys went when the missiles came in from Iran a couple weeks ago? They went underground. So, anyway, here's Francesca Albanese.
What's happening in Gaza is the shame of the century. Gaza has been erased. There is almost nothing left other than the despair of people who continue to perish there. Look at the acts of torture. Look at who's being killed. Doctors, nurses, students, mothers, children. 17,000 children. To look at what the soldiers have done and said, and then have the courage to say that this is not genocide. This genocide would have not been possible without the shocking cover-up by the media. The role that corporate media played in justifying crimes, in spreading misinformation, like the 40 beheaded babies.
We have some really disturbing new information out of Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister's spokesman just confirmed babies and toddlers were found with their heads decapitated in Kfar Aza in southern Israel after Hamas attacks in the kibbutz over the weekend.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there. That was a false report, if you recall. They were saying that that Hamas was beheading babies. That turned out to be a complete fabrication, like many of the other reports that were coming out of Israel.
Basic ethical principles governing their profession.
I choked up earlier reading this new revelation about 40 babies being killed.
Oh my God.
And some of them being beheaded. And I was like, how can any human being do that to a baby?
That's Piers Morgan, by the way, when he was 100% on board with Israel. However, I must say, over the past couple of months, he's starting to come around and realizing that Israel is not the lily-white, innocent little, child of the United States. No, it ain't that way at all.
The role of international media, of Western media, in acting in defense of the acts of a genocidal state. This is unprecedented, but it's also revealing of the global situation we are facing, the fact that this is not just the genocide of the Palestinians committed by Israel. A number of Western countries are complicit, and so this is an opportunity to interrogate the system we live in, the checks and balances we have as a global community, how people in the West trying to stop the genocide have been repressed. There is momentum and goodwill to make a change, and people feel at loss because they look at their politicians who are in bad faith, especially those who claim to be human rights lawyers.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right.
They know that you cannot advocate for starvation. They know that you cannot doubt that a genocide is ongoing where the International Court of Justice has recognized the plausibility of genocide. You should act upon the recognition of that plausibility.
I'm well aware of the definition of genocide, and that is why I've never described this and referred to it as genocide.
This genocide is also the consequence of the enduring impunity that Israel has been granted since its foundation. Israel has been allowed to violate hundreds of UN resolutions. And this is the result. A state that behaves as if it was above the law.
That's right. That's exactly right. They are above the law in their own eyes. And if anyone could possibly justify cutting off food and water to the population there and saying that that's a means of defending yourself. I mean, if anybody's buying this, I don't know how you can buy this. I really don't. Now, I don't want to be called some sort of a Jew hater. It's got nothing to do with hating Jews. It has nothing to do with that. It's not about anti-Semitism. It's about anti-genocide. And there are plenty of good-hearted, real nice people who are Jewish. I don't have any problem with them. However, we always hear about Christian extremists. We hear about Islamic extremists. But we never hear about Jewish extremists. What part of Judaism could be considered extremist? Now, there are Jews who believe in the Torah, and there are other Jews that follow the Talmud. And the Talmud is a whole different ball game, And I'm sorry, folks, but, you stop and think about the history of humanity. Let's go back several thousand years, before the New Testament. Go before the Old Testament. Now, remember that when Moses went up to get the Ten Commandments, he came down and the people were worshiping a golden calf. That's because the age that came before the Old Testament it was an age where people did child sacrifice, animal sacrifice. They worshipped Baal. I'm sure you've seen pictures of people holding up a baby in sacrifice to Baal. That was going on thousands of years ago. Now, supposedly, that all dried up and blew away after the Old Testament came into play. I'm telling you that it didn't. It didn't. And I think that that's exactly why Moses got ticked off. He came back and said the people had reverted back to the old ways of sacrifice. So I don't think it went away. I think it just went underground. And that's why I'm saying, of the three major religions that are recognized in the world, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, I contend that there's a fourth, and it's Luciferianism, Satanism. And I've said that before, and I'll keep on saying it. But no, I'm serious, folks. This is what we're up against. It doesn't make any difference what I believe. It doesn't make any difference what you believe. What matters is what they believe. And they believe in satanic worship. They do. So anyway, I do have a song that I'd like to dedicate to these evil sons of Satan, if you will. And it's the final cut on the first album called Final Assessment. And this goes out to all the folks who are supporting Israel and everything that they're doing. Because eventually you're going to have to look at yourself in the mirror and realize that maybe God is going to be looking at you too. Here it is.
When it's all over, when it's all done? At what cost the battle? What prize has been won? When dark clouds surrender, when the storm is undone, will you stand there shining in the light of the sun?
The light of the sun, S-O-N.
Are your motives worthy? Are your motives true? Are you doing things you would have done to you? Are you really proud of the things that you do? Will you stand there beaming when your life's finally through? When the dawn is just breaking at the end of the night, will you still have freedom? Will you still have rights? Were you proudly hailing through the perilous fight? Did you hide in darkness or try to shed light? When the curtain is closing and your life passes by, will you pleasantly smile or will you break down and cry? Will you honestly say you gave life your best try? If there's a reason for living, did you ever ask why? When the dawn is just breaking at the end of the night, will you still have freedom? Will you still have rights? Were you proudly hailing through the perilous fight? Did you hide in darkness or try to shed light? As you passed through life, did you seek to grow? Did you hold on tightly or did you let it all go? Did you look for truth or did you not want to know? In the final assessment, you will reap what you sow. In the final assessment, you will reap what you sow. In the final assessment, you will reap what you sow.
Yeah, it's about the size of it. In the final assessment, you will reap what ye sow. And they say that when you're at the end of the road, when you're about to pass onto the other side, that your life passes before you. And that some people say that's sort of like standing at the pearly gates, and St. Peter's trying to decide whether or not you get in or you're going to go down, Well, maybe when your life passes before you, that is the assessment. That is the review. Because every single human being on this planet has a conscience, whether they want to deny it or not. And they can go through any ritual that they want to, a Bohemian Grove, the cremation of care, et cetera, and that sort of like absolves you from any guilt. I don't think it works that way. I don't think it works that way at all. I think that when you're coming to the end of the line and your life passes before you, that's your conscience speaking out. Say, did you do the right thing or did you do the wrong thing? But you will be judged, absolutely. And your inactivity, you're not getting involved, sitting back and waiting for somebody else to do it. Yeah, there's a price to pay for that one too. Anyway, I'm not here to preach at you, but I'm just telling you the truth as I see it. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's Thursday edition of the WTF Reports. I hope you enjoy the broadcast. If you do, please click like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. Everybody, hey, get on board here and do business with the WTF Reports. Okay, I'm Dave vonKleist. That's going to wrap it up. I'm done for the day. I'll be back again tomorrow, so stay safe, stay free, and I will see you tomorrow.